The followers of 3 religions make up over half of the world's population. All of these faiths share common roots. One of these is Jerusalem. Let me introduce myself. My name is Andy Yardy. I'm a filmmaker, and in my career, I've been to over 60 countries, but never to Israel. I've come here on a pilgrimage to see Jerusalem, a city that looms larger than life for me. It's my first day in Israel. I'm sitting at the edge of the Mediterranean Sea in the old city of Jaffa. It's a windy day here. The waves are crashing in to the beach. People are out enjoying the day. It's a holiday. Israel has been a nation for 67 years. So, as Israel celebrates its Independence Day, I'm taking the day here in Tel Aviv to adjust. Tel Aviv is interesting. Strange, really. It's foreign, but not all that different from any other modern city. However, it is overwhelmingly Jewish, but punctuated by signs of the much larger Christian and Muslim faiths. Probably like you, I've noticed that throughout my life, these 3 faiths keep popping up, and not always in the most positive light. The events and ideas and people that make the headlines smear blood all over the ideals on which these faiths were founded. Overlooking Tel Aviv today, though, it doesn't seem possible that today Israel and the surrounding region is the focal point of so much of this struggle. My train leaves for Jerusalem in the late afternoon. I'm getting excited. The train heads southeast away from the Mediterranean basin and towards the West Bank and Dead Sea. The farmlands turn to mountains, and the train struggles upward, taking me closer to the gates of Jerusalem. Nothing, I mean nothing, can prepare you for your first glimpse of Jerusalem from the Damascus gate. As I enter the gates and walk down these narrow pathways, I do what I always do when I get to a new place. I just walk and observe. I'm overwhelmed by the depth of history and humanity that is concentrated into this 1/3 square mile plot of land. As a filmmaker, I have traveled to war zones. I've been at the scene of natural disasters. I've walked the streets of the world's largest cities and most remote villages. But my first walk through the old city of Jerusalem really was something unique. I have been fascinated by Jerusalem for as long as I can remember. So this is a culmination of a dream, along with my fascination with history and its connection to current events. There has been a lot said about this city that I don't need to repeat. But the basics is that Jerusalem has been the focal point of conflict, both religious and political, for thousands of years. Since it was annexed by the State of Israel in the '67 war, modern Jerusalem has officially been their capital. But it is also claimed as the capital of the Palestinian state, whose borders I could clearly see earlier as I approached the old city of Jerusalem. Inside these walls are sites sacred to the world's 3 major monotheistic religions. For Muslims, it's the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, the 3rd most holy place in the world for Muslims. For Jews, it's the Western Wall, all that's left of their temple. And for Christians, this is the place where Jesus died and was resurrected. In my time here, I want to focus on what happens on 3 days each week that are sacred to each of these faiths. For Muslims, it's Friday, their day of prayer. For Jews, it's Saturday, Shabbat. And for Christians, it's Sunday, their day of worship, where they celebrate the resurrection of Christ. So my hope is that by focusing on these 3 days and sharing some sacred moments with the faithful, I can start to get beyond the conflict and bloodshed that we all know about and discover this sacred city that is a spiritual home to billions. Let's discover this city from a perspective that you can only have when you walk through the streets, when you meet the people and see this place not as a political pawn or a religious relic, but as a home for people just like you and I.
On the next episode of 3.
If you are tired, if you are angry from something, but when we be inside the mosque there, it's like everything is gone, you know? You be like relaxed, it's everything like okay for you.
Visit storyof3.net to subscribe and learn more about 3.